back to another session of CaN, Gallant Current Affairs and News Analysis. So I'll be dealing with 3 days news today, October 5, 6 and 7, 3 days news. So let's look into the important 10 topics I have taken from the 3 days article. The first we will be dealing with the glacier lake outburst phenomena that happened in Sikkim. Then we will be actually talking about the carbon accounting system that was actually mentioned in the newspaper. Then roller coaster, that was our 2023 monsoon, how the deficit rainfall, like prediction of deficit rainfall was turned to surplus or a normal monsoon year. So we will be discussing the roller coaster ride of the 2023 monsoon. Then we will be talking about the cases of diabetics in India, what is the state of diabetics and how are the ultra processed food again affecting or inducing more people into the category of diabetics. Then we will be discussing about quantum dots. The Nobel Prize for Chemistry was awarded to 3 scientists for finding of quantum dots. So we will be discussing that as well. Then National Action Plan for Green Shipping, Nobel Prize for Literature as well as Nobel Prize for Peace that has been actually announced in the recent days. Amphibians facing extinction mainly due to climate change as well as habitation loss. So we will look into the percentage. Then Kerala, the first public caravan tourism service was started recently as a part of the tourism project within Kerala. So we will be discussing all these 10 topics in detail today. The first is the glacial lake outburst flood that actually happened in Sikkim. So you see here mainly we are talking about a particular lake called the South Luhansk Lake, which is actually 5,200 meters above the sea level, and suddenly this lake actually overflown into the Teesta river, actually distracting the whole of Sikkim as together. And we are talking about a particular dam here also called the Chungat Dam. The thing is that, so you see here, this is the lake which we are talking about. This is the South Luhansk Lake which we are talking about. This is about 160 kilometer, and now presently after the floods and such, only 60 kilometer of South Luhansk Lake. These are actually glacial lakes, which means that these are actually frozen in particular place there. The thing what happened here is that there was actually cloudburst or particular heavy rainfall happening within this region. So this 160 kilometer lake was already like they were very big and was about to fall, and when there was a rush of rainfall and cloudburst again, the lake couldn't actually take or hold the capacity anymore, and it actually flooded everything and joining into the Teesta river. That is what actually happened. So you can see in the 1990s how the lake has actually been growing over the years. In 1900s it was just a small piece. Now in 2000 again it has grew actually. 2010 it has grew again, and 2019 this is actually became about 160 kilometer of long lake. That is what happened with the South Luhansk Lake. So that is what has actually taken place. So you can see here this is very big, and till now the glacial lake outburst did not happen because like there was lateral moraines, which means that there is a small support barrier, like it is a small support barrier of weak rocks and such. So they were actually able to hold on to this lake for long, but with the recent outburst or the cloudburst and such that was happening there, the lake could not hold on much, or the lateral moraines could not hold down, and it actually came crashing down and with the Teesta river. So in the Teesta river there are 3 dams there. So this was actually the 3rd dam. This is also called the Teesta 3 dam. Like there was 3 dams constructed along the Teesta dam. So this dam, this is called the Chungat dam. It's also called the Teesta 3 dam. This was earlier how the Teesta 3 dam used to look. This is the image. That dam is actually now completely gone because of all the floods that has actually taken place. Now this is the main route of the dam coming from. This is the route by which the water used to flow. Now the dam is actually completely destroyed. So that is one of the event or phenomena that actually happened in the Sikkim because of the glacial lake outburst phenomena. Now the scientists like ISRO and IAS has been actually telling about the phenomena like for many years, since 2004-2008 they have been actually studying for this, but Sikkim was actually not fully prepared to handle this glacial lake outburst as such. Now initially the lake was about 160 hectares, and now it's only about 60 hectares. So that is what has been actually happened in Sikkim altogether. Now moving on, we have keeping tabs on carbon with an accounting system. So the first thing you need to know about 2-3 terminologies here. One is what is polycrisis, another is the National Carbon Accounting System that has been actually mentioned in the article. The first one is polycrisis. You know climate change is one of the phenomena, but that is not what is happening. Like the climate change is affecting not only the environment, but also the socio-political as well as the economic sector. You can see if the climate change is happening, because of it the crops are not growing very much. So especially if you can see the tomato price has been increasing and decreasing over the last few months within this year itself. So that is one of the main cause of the climate change. So it's also affecting, the climate change is not only affecting the environment, but it's actually affecting our socio-political as well as economic sectors also. So that particular crisis is called as the poly crisis, not just limited to one particular environment sector alone. Multiple sectors are affected by climate change, and that is called as the poly crisis. Now, what is the ways by which we can address or mitigate this poly crisis? So, the author states about carbon infrastructure. The thing is that we have the carbon accounting system or carbon financial transfer system within countries and such, which has been actually established by Kyoto Protocol or Paris Agreement. So, similarly, the author is talking about a national carbon accounting system. Usually, if we are looking at the carbon emissions, we will be looking at the company's carbon emission or the government's carbon emission. How much a sector or company is actually releasing the carbon or greenhouse gas emissions as such is what we are looking. But the article states that look not just apart from the companies, we need to look from the grassroots level as such. An individual, a household, a panchayat, a district, and also the national and state level, how much emissions are actually taking place. So you have to actually go from a grassroots level. Now this ideology is actually pretty much very good. The thing is that I may actually pollute more, so that I should also bear the burden of the carbon emissions as such. So this article is talking about a national carbon accounting system. The carbon release must be accounted from the grassroots level as such. And the thing which we can do here is by addressing this, the progressive carbon tax. If I am purchasing 20 liters of petrol, I am rich and I could purchase 20 liters of petrol which is actually polluting in nature, I should be paying more for that. Like there is income tax, then we should also be giving carbon tax. I may only purchase 1 liter of petrol, so my carbon tax will be pretty much very less. A person who is purchasing about 20 liters of petrol should be actually charged more or higher more. So that is what called the progressive tax in general, and in the case of carbon we will call the progressive carbon tax. So that is a methodology by which the article has been actually stating about. So looking on to it, poly crisis, as I have told you, physical, social, economic and political challenges which are arising from the climate change are addressed as the keyword termed as the poly crisis. So if you are looking into what is a carbon infrastructure, opportunities for flourishing carbon regime that takes the flow of carbon into account. The flow of carbon between countries, within companies and such will be actually taken into account in case of carbon infrastructure. Then carbon emission measures. The carbon accounted from all levels, as I have told you, individual, household, panchayat, district, state as well as the country level. That is a carbon emission measure that we need to consider. Then national carbon accounting. Bringing all the parties under the carbon accounting framework. As I told you, not only companies, but the individual, household, panchayat, district and everyone, bringing everyone together into the parties under the carbon accounting framework as such. Then progressive carbon tax helps us to keep track of the inflows and outflows of the carbon within the company. Now in a company, the carbon accounting is pretty much very easy. Like we have the income taxing, similarly they have the carbon tax as well. But the implemented in the ground level, how the carbon tax will be collected from an individual, household, panchayat is yet to be talked about. There is a solution that is actually provided in the article, but the implementation of how effective the implementation will be or how the implementation can take place is actually not clearly actually mentioned in the article. So we have a problem called the poly crisis, and the solution mentioned is a national accounting system. So this also actually help us bring down, like if we are actually able to implement such a system, we can actually achieve our 2070 net zero target pretty early as well. It will actually help us, in this national carbon accounting system will actually help us achieve our 2070 net zero carbon goal. So that is what is told in the article. The problem is poly crisis and the solution is national carbon accounting as well as the progressive carbon tax is what the solution. Now you can actually use these kind of keywords in your environment as well as your economy if you actually have a question regarding climate change and such. Moving on, we have the next article. Roller coaster, that's a 2023 monsoon. So if you are looking at the last 4 months, in my last class I have told you, in the last 4 months we have in some month got deficit rainfall and in some month we got surplus rainfall. So altogether we have actually witnessed about minus 1.6% of deficit rainfall only, because this year was actually predicted as a El Nino year. This year was actually predicted as a El Nino year. So if you are looking, what has actually happened is that, so El Nino, as you know, now this maybe you can take it as South Africa and this as Australia. If there is warming within this particular area, this actually creates a low pressure. So all the winds actually go from here, from a high pressure area, if this is high pressure area, all the winds will actually go from this high pressure area to low pressure area. So because of which this phenomena will actually make our southwest monsoon pretty much weaker. This phenomena will make our southwest monsoon weaker, because of which we will actually get deficit rainfall. Then another thing is La Nina. For the last 5 years we were actually witnessing of La Nina. The similar condition we have Australia here, we have South Africa here. The warming occurs here, because of which this actually creates a low pressure area. So all the winds actually from the high pressure region will actually go into the low pressure area. Thus this actually creates a much more surplus rainfall. We will have good rainfall within here, and here they will actually experience drought. In the case of here, they will experience rainfall and we will experience drought kind of condition here. So this is what is the El Nino and the La Nina. For the last 5 years we were actually witnessing back to back El Nina, but this year we actually witness a El Nino kind of effect, because of which we were actually experiencing drought, or we were actually told to experience much of deficit rainfall. But what happened here in between is that, the Indian Ocean dipole. The Indian Ocean dipole, this is actually our India. We can see this as the Arabian Sea and this is the Bay of Bengal. So you see, if Arabian Sea is warm, there is a condition of positive IOD as well as negative IOD. If the Arabian Sea is warm and the Bay of Bengal is cold, we will be actually experiencing a positive IOD, which means that this will actually area will be creating a low pressure region. This will be a cold, then will be a higher pressure region. So if there is a low pressure region here, all the winds will be going from this higher pressure region to low pressure region. So if there is a low pressure region going here and all the winds is coming here, the southwest, it will aid the southwest monsoon. So this year, even if we had a El Nino, we also witnessed a positive IOD, because of which we were actually able to get a normal monsoon season. This year did not become a deficit only because of the aid of this positive IOD. As I have told you, positive IOD, that is a positive for India, which means that the Arabian Sea is actually in warming phase and the Bay of Bengal is actually in the cooling phase. If it is warmer, it will actually create a low pressure kind of region, because of which all the winds will be coming from the high pressure to low pressure, and this will actually aid our southwest monsoon. In the negative IOD, which means that the Bay of Bengal will be warm, because of which the low pressure area will be actually created here, and the Arabian Sea will be cold, because of which a high pressure region will be actually created, because of which all the winds actually will go from the Arabian Sea to the Bay of Bengal region, because of which the southwest monsoon will actually become weak. In this case, if the El Nino and the negative IOD came together, means that our monsoon will be much more deficit. That is, like this year it has been like we got actually El Nino and a positive IOD, because of which we were actually able to witness a normal monsoon season. So I hope you actually understood the what is both together, what is El Nino as well as the IOD that has actually took place. So if you are looking here, as I have told you, we actually witness about minus 5.6% deficit as such. Minus 5.6% deficit. So as per the article or as per the IMD, about 20% of positive, 20% of positive as well as 20% of negative is actually considered as normal. In between this range, there is minus 20, there is 0, there is plus 20. So within this range, the rainfall is actually considered as normal, and we actually experience a minus 5.6%, which is actually practically a very normal monsoon season. So if you are looking as per this is a chart which actually draws about the kind of monsoon season from June we actually came low, then July 31 we actually experienced a surplus, then September also we actually are experiencing a surplus. We have above surplus, we got a different deficit, but tallying everything together we only got a deficit of minus 5.6%. As I have told you, in the last 4 months we have been actually 1 month that means deficit, 1 month has been surplus. So that has been actually going on for 4 months. If you are looking at June, we experienced minus 9% of deficit rainfall. In July, we actually got a plus 13% of surplus rainfall. In August, we got minus 36%. Now, this August is considered as the driest month of the century. Since 1901 August to this 2023 August, this month August, 2023 August was considered as the most driest August of the century. Then in September, we got plus 13% of surplus rainfall. So, tallying all this, we only actually experienced about minus 5.6% of deficit rainfall. So, that will be actually considered as a very normal rainfall year. But the distribution of rainfall has been varying. The thing is that all these like the grey shaded area experienced a normal rainfall. The countries, the states like West Bengal and Gujarat actually experienced surplus rainfall. But the other countries like Kerala, Karnataka and the Indo-Gangetic Plain area actually witness a deficit rainfall. The thing is that there is actually positive and negative about this aspect. The negative aspect is that the key agricultural areas actually witness a deficit of rainfall. Another problem is that the Rajasthan and Gujarat, they actually experienced some drier condition, but because of the excess rainfall they got, they were actually not ready for this excess rainfall, because of which the flood kind of condition actually happened in certain places in Rajasthan and Gujarat as well. So all this area actually got normal, but some area we got excess and some area which we got deficit. That deficit area was in need of excess rainfall, and the excess area was actually in need of only lesser rainfall. So that is how the pattern or the distribution of rainfall actually varied this monsoon season. See, if looking in the 1953, despite the El Nino effect, there was actually higher rainfall. In 1974, despite the La Nina effect, there was actually less rainfall. So, it shows that the El Nino, La Nina impact and the departure in rainfall actually also varies within the years and centuries as well. In this year, as I have told you, we experienced minus 5.6%. Even though we had an El Nino, we got surplus, we got the normal rainfall just because of the positive IOD. So, remember what is El Nino, La Nina as well as IOD. If you did not understand the concept, please rewind the video and actually look that part again. That is very important because this year we actually witnessed an El Nino. So, you may actually expect a question in prelims or in mains regarding this 2023 monsoon as well. Moving on, we have ticking time bomb, that is actually diabetics. So, the article actually fully talks about the problems of diabetics and how the population are going towards a diabetic era. The thing is that this study was actually conducted by the Madras Diabetic Research along with the ICMR and the Health Ministry of India. The thing is that about 10 point, that is 11.4% of people actually has diabetics. But the thing is that 15.3% of population are pre-diabetic and are on the stage to be diabetic in the coming future, which makes close to about 27% of population diabetic within India. Another thing is that also 28.6% of people are considered to be obese. So, they can also be probably getting diabetics in the future as well. So, that is what is actually revealed in this article about how the diabetics has been actually increasing. The article actually states the main concerns or main reasons why there is diabetic is as the cause of ultra processed food. The article actually uses the term ultra processed food. Mainly for us, it's kind of a junk food. Everything we eat, from hotels to whatever drinks we are drinking, the cola, Pepsi, even the baby formula is considered as one of the ultra processed food. All these processed foods is actually considered to cause diabetics and other kind of bigger diseases as well. The more we actually consume these ultra processed food, the more we actually might actually get the cardiovascular kind of diseases. Even if we are consuming about 10% of this ultra processed food, we have 15% of chance of getting diabetics. There is actually type 1 as well as type 2 kind of diabetics. Type 1 kind of diabetics is what we actually natural one due to the immunity level. These are type 1 diabetes usually occur naturally. Then there is type 2 kind of diabetes. This is mainly due to the lifestyle we follow. The more we consume this ultra processed food which has a lot of salt, a lot of sugar and all this ultra processed. When the food is ultra processed, which means that the nutrients, everything is actually removed from the food, and the only thing is they add a lot of color, they add a lot of sugar, because of which that food which we are actually consuming becomes very unhealthy. So when we are consuming a lot of this ultra processed food, we are susceptible to get type 2 of diabetics. Even children, even young adults, they are also susceptible to this kind of type 2 kind of diabetics that mainly occur due to the lifestyle or the food which we actually consume and intake. So as you can see here, the consumption as per WHO, as I have told, the consumption of unhealthy food, basically the ultra processed foods and beverages are one of the main reason. It actually causes it has higher sugar fat content, because of which you are also susceptible to risk of cardiovascular disease and such, because of which you may actually experience mortality as well. A 10% increase in the consumption of this junk food or the ultra processed food will actually create a higher risk, about 15% of higher risk of type 2 kind of diabetics, 15% risk of about type 2 kind of diabetics that will be actually occur. The thing is that why is there a lot of ultra processed food in our country? Now in the western countries or the developed nation, for the last 20 years the amount of ultra processed food consumption is actually reducing. So because of which all the bigger countries need players or markets so they can actually sell their products. Now all this, because in the developed country they are actually moving towards a more healthy pattern of food, these companies are actually not able to get any profit in these developed countries. So they actually move into low and middle income countries, like especially in India we have a lot of big food industry company, big players in India market as well. So the low and middle income countries, especially the middle class families, to get food or to afford more food, these food processing industries actually give out their food much more in cheaper rate, because of which all the low and middle income countries actually buy it. And especially if we are looking, children and young adults will be actually consuming a lot of these kind of junk foods or the ultra processed food, because of which the diabetic rates has been actually increasing. Now these food industries or companies will be actually like playing along with the government of saying that you should eat right, you should follow this and that, and in their packaging they will be actually labeling out that this is healthy food and such. But the reality is that they just want their profits and they are actually selling more and more of these ultra processed food, because of which low and middle income countries like especially India is susceptible to this kind of ultra processed food. Now in our legislation, like we can actually bring some changes is that the first thing we can, as per the article 123, we can actually put on some kind of legislations or some kind of mechanism by which we can actually stop these kinds of ultra processed foods from coming on. Another thing, like if you are actually smoking, in the smoke packet we will see this particular product causes cancer. Now that is actually common. You can even find that kind of label even in the theatres as a smoking kills or smoking causes cancer. So these kind you can actually find in the theatre or the cigarette box which you actually buy. Now similarly you can actually do these kind of steps in the like in the packaging of food as well. This particular, like if you are taking Coca-Cola, this particular you can say that it causes diabetics or this causes obesity. So these kind of like even if another product, these kind of product cause heart risk. So you have to actually kind of can mention these kind of things in the packaging itself. Now because of which the consumers who actually consume this will be more, like they will be more aware of the risk or the challenges they will actually get from consuming that particular product. So but the thing is that the ground reality of how much company or how many companies will actually adopt this policy within their packages. For cigarettes is okay because a lot of companies has been doing, and that has actually become a common legislation kind of platform within India. So the government has to push in a lot of measures or take a lot of measures by which we can actually get like these kind of healthy foods into the market system. So as I have told you about a playground for the food industry, this was actually in the developed countries. Then they moved down to the low and middle income countries, and especially like they target the younger generation and the growing population, and because of which this younger generation is actually susceptible to more of this type 2 kind of diabetics. Then mandatory provisions, you can actually create a legal framework as per the article 123 of the constitution, and also we have to define what is a healthy food. Even if you are actually getting in a package, like if we are buying oats or something, that is kind of the healthy food which we actually feel like, but in that particular itself there may be some kind of contents which are very unhealthy. If you are looking in the baby formula, now which mothers actually consider to be safe and healthy, but the thing is that they in that baby formula as well a lot of sugars and such is actually added, because of which that particular product is very unhealthy. It is ultra processed, because of which that particular product is very unhealthy for the baby. So we need to have a proper definition of what is healthy and what is actually unhealthy, so that the consumers and the people will be actually aware about it. Then the promotion of warning labels should be also given out in the food. Now certain countries like South Africa, Norway and Mexico already have these kinds of systems in place, because of which they are actually promoting healthier food. So India should also take certain kinds of measures so which we can also experience much more healthy food as such. Moving on, we have the quantum dots. Now the three persons who actually gained the Nobel Prize for Chemistry is Mungri, Badvendi, Louis Bruss and Alexei Ekimov. So these three persons actually got the Nobel Prize for Chemistry for finding of quantum dots. So I will be telling you in simply what is quantum dots as such. Now you can actually see there is actually a bus. The bus, there is only a little bit of people, like only 20 people or 10 people within the bus. So the environment will be actually much more calmer. The properties which the people experience will be much more calmer, and they are straight thinking and such. But when the bus is fully filled, like there is not even a little bit space to move here and there, every single person in that bus will be irritated, because of it the whole bus or the whole people within the bus will be actually experiencing another symptom. So similarly, this is what a quantum dot works. So in a particle of water, we can see a lot of atoms here. They can actually move here and there, because of which they will be actually experiencing another kind. Like this is the case of water. Now in water we actually take it per lakh kind of stuff. But when we are actually in quantum, what we do is that we arrange the quantum in a very tight space, because of which they will be actually showing out a particularly different kind of characteristics. Now this loose atoms will be actually showing another kind of characteristics, and when they are actually pushed together or compressed together, this will be actually experiencing another kind of characteristics. That is similar to what I have told you in the case of bus. When it is loose and the characteristics that the people show is much more calmer. But when the bus is overcrowded and there is no inch space to move, the conditions which are characteristics that are shown by people is much more irritated. So that is what happens in the case of quantum dots as well. In the case of water, it will be actually the atoms can actually move around, but here everything is compressed together, because of which it actually shows another character. Now the quantum dots are actually taken in a thousands. Whereas I have told you in the water, it actually the number of atoms bring together is actually lakhs. Here we are actually compressing together about 1,000 atoms to actually form a quantum dot. Now this has actually a lot of advantages in the field as well. We will be actually discussing as well, and they have a kind of unique property. When a light is actually flashed upon this quantum dots, they actually absorb as well as re-emit the light based upon their size. See, this is based upon the size of the quantum dot, the reflection of light will also change. Now see, this quantum dot is only 2 nanometer, this is 3 nanometer, this is about 4 nanometer, this is 5 nanometer, and this is about 7 nanometer. This is the size of the atoms or the quantum dots that is actually shown here. So when a particular smaller 2 nanometer quantum dot is actually flashed with the light, this will actually show a property of blue color. When the size actually increases, it will actually, when the light is passed through it, it will show different color. In a small 2 nanometer, it will show blue color. In 3 nanometer, it will show green color. In 4, yellow. 5, orange, and the last in the 7 nanometer, it actually portrays about red color. The smaller the size, it actually gives out higher frequency. This gives out higher frequency, and this particular actually gives about lower frequency. Now this actually depends upon the size and wavelength as well. So that is the characteristics that is actually shown within this quantum dots. They have a lot of application, as I have told you. You can actually use in TV screens, illuminations, biomedical imaging, photons for quantum communication. We can actually make much more cheaper solar cells. So these quantum dots are much more important in the technological field or in the upcoming field. So these are basically what is a quantum dots called about. They have a unique property, as I have told you. The smaller the size, they actually smaller wavelength, and they actually experience higher frequency of waves. You can actually see here. The blue, there is higher frequency, this is lesser, and in the red we can actually see very lesser frequency as such. And what are the applications regarding it you should also be known to about. So that is what is called as quantum dots. So remember what I have told you about quantum dots. Moving on, National Action Plan for Green Shipping. Now this was actually basically green shipping means that you are actually adopting much more of eco-friendly or environment-friendly practices. This will actually help in India's maritime sector, which we are actually willing to about much more economic, because in the future we will be actually achieving about, the sector plays pivot role because we will be achieving about a $20 trillion within 2047. So that is how the capacity, or that is what they we can actually expect from the India's maritime sector as well, and the growth rate is actually projected to about 9%. So the green shipping is basically, the national project for green shipping is basically which we are actually trying to initiate eco-friendly practices and creating ships based for especially low emission ships as such. So we can actually change into much more greener initiatives as such. The sector vision also encompasses about the quadrupling the port capacity within India, clean energy fuel hubs, cruise tourism growth, shipbuilding, and also recycling of the ships, and creating a 5,000 kilometers of regional waterway grid. These are also some of the initiatives that is actually associated with the National Action Plan. This is not only for green or greening the shipping, but other than that, we are actually looking for to encompass more quadrupling the port capacity. We are actually willing to create a regional waterways kind of system, cruise tourism growth, as well as the clean energy fuel hubs are also which we are actually initiative of this. Then Nobel Prize for Literature. Here, the person who actually won the Nobel Prize is from Norway. He is known as John Fosse. He actually plays right place for a lot of, he's known for his playwriting, and that playwriting has been actually used all over the world, especially there are some key works associated called the Boathouse as well as the Melancholy 1 and 2. Because of all these works and the playwrights and associate him as in the industry, because of which he actually got the Nobel Prize for Literature. Remember his name is called John Fosse. He is from the Swedish Academy, and writer has been honored for his innovative playwrights and prose which gives voice to the unsayable. So that is what has been seen. Even if we cannot say the thing which he writes, which is actually unsayable, he can even write precisely what the things which is unsayable. So that is what is actually talked about or said about his works. Then Nobel Peace Prize has been actually awarded to Narges Mohammadi. She is actually from Iran, and she has been she is an activist who has been working for the women's right and democracy, particularly in Iran. She has been working for that for 20 to 22 years, and so she has been, in the last 22 years, she has been in and out of jail of Iran, and she has been actually fighting continuously for this women rights as such. Remember her name, Narges Mohammadi from Iran. Presently, she is actually in jail as well. Then amphibians facing extinction. As I have told you in my introduction, the climate crisis as well as the habitation loss are one of the two factors that is actually contributing the extinction of amphibians. It says that 2 out of 5 amphibians are actually facing extinction correctly. The climate change is actually emerging as one of the biggest threats for frogs, salamanders as well as caecilians. These are considered the 3 amphibians as such. There is actually ongoing decline in the world's amphibians in the face of emerging threats. The study is actually based upon, is actually conducted by the Global Amphibian Assessment, coordinated by the Amphibian Red List Authority, which is actually a branch or part of the IUCN. Then evaluate the extinction of risk of more than actually 8,000 amphibian species from all over the world, including about 2,286 species as such. So as they are actually looking, habitat loss is also actually created as one of the reasons. The climate change is a primary threat. They actually cause an extinction about 39% because they are very sensitive to climate change, these amphibians, because of which these amphibians are extremely threatened by that of climate change as such. Now, as data revealed, 2 out of every 5 amphibians are threatened by extinction, because of which they are actually added to IUCN Red List of threatened species. So, that is what we need to actually know about this amphibians which are actually threatened by habitation loss as well as climate change. In the last topic, we have in Kerala, in Bekal Fort. In the Bekal Fort area, to promote tourism, this kind of caravans. Now, this is very popular in western countries in America, Europe and such. So, similar kind of initiative has been actually taken by the Kerala government, so that these people can actually travel in caravans and visit actually a lot of these kind of tourist places, because of which there will be a tourism boost within the countries. So, this has been the all important 10 topics from the last 3 days of newspaper. I hope you are enjoying my class, as well as in tomorrow you can actually expect, today you can actually expect the questions like in our CaN Lunch Masters, you can expect questions in our Gallant IAS official channel. So, thank you and have a nice day, and we will be meeting again on Monday with the current affairs and news of Sunday and Monday. Thank you and have a nice day.